ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, to this, the press briefing by the African National Congress, where the ANC Secretary General will communicate the outcomes of the recently held National Executive Committee, as well as the review of the ANC's elections manifesto. The SG will walk us through all of that, and will also speak about the unification process of SANCO, which is why you see to my left joined by the SANCO leadership, but the SG will ventilate that further. You are welcome this morning. I now hand over to the Secretary General.
Good morning to members of the media who are with us here this morning, to our spokesperson, Comrade Mahlengi Bengu, to the leadership of SANCO, led by its President Richard Hlophe, in the integration process, on my left, and on my far left, Mike Soko, who is the Secretary General of Dilinde Madoda. Mbalula. Okay. The National Executive Committee of the ANC have endorsed the integration process of SANCO, which is born out of a conference which was held at Alexander and in Durban. These comrades have worked among themselves. These are the main protagonists, so to say, in SANCO, who took each other, among others, to court, and they've decided to come together on their own and lead the integration process of SANCO throughout the country. The ANC held its National Executive Committee meeting from the 7th to the 10th of July 2023 to consider several reports, discuss and take firm decisions on a number of domestic and international issues impacting on the work of the organization at the national and international level. The National Executive Committee meeting received a political overview by the President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, NWC report from the Secretary General, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, as well as various other reports covering the work of the organization, of which we make reflections on the way forward in this statement. Accordingly, we release this statement on key commitments arising from the National Executive Committee discussions. Nelson Mandela Month. In his political overview, the President alluded to the fact that we held this NEC meeting during the Nelson Mandela Month, dedicated internationally to the memory of our departed icon and stalwart in the struggle for liberation, whose sacrifice towards our political freedom, as well as his wisdom in leading us to democracy as a leader of the ANC, is recognized and celebrated throughout the world. The President and the NEC once more paid tribute to President Nelson Mandela and further committed ourselves as the ANC to his vision for democracy, freedom, justice, and equality, underpinned by the radical socio-economic emancipation of our people. The President reminded the National Executive Committee that it is the Constitution that enjoins us to create the new society for which many paid with their lives. It is against this backdrop that the ANC renews its commitment towards dismantling the socio-economic defaults of race, gender, and class in our society, whilst striving for a prosperous South Africa, a better African continent, and a just and peaceful world. The ANC will announce activities as part of celebrating this icon of our liberation struggle, whose birthday this year coincides with the convening of the BRICS plus political parties dialogue in Ekurhuleni. On load shedding, the National Executive Committee was pleased to note that even though the challenges of load shedding persist, nonetheless, there is a marked improvement on the energy availability factor from the various ESCOM plants. Whilst intermittent load shedding will continue, overall the trajectory points to success towards ending load shedding altogether. The NEC therefore applauded the continued work by all stakeholders involved in this regard, led by the Minister of Electricity, Comrade Khosientsu Ramokgopa, and involving the critical support by the private sector and the tireless efforts by workers in this energy sector towards ensuring grid stability. The increase in EAF further enables more interventions on fixing and maintaining generation units in all ESCOM plants. The NEC also noted the addition of power from renewable energy, the anticipated additional 7% points from Kusile Power Station, as well as the utilization of previously decommissioned power plants. The National Executive Committee therefore reassures South Africans of its commitment towards ending load shedding, which has had a serious negative impact on both the social well-being of our people as well as economic development. With the evidence we have on work being done, we are confident that by end December 2023, South Africa has a greater chance of ending load shedding. This week's temporary return to stage 6 load shedding was a result of a surge in demand which peaked at 33,900 megawatts. It is temporary and will return to lower load shedding stages. We have been reassured very soon. On the Integrity Commission, the National Executive Committee welcomed a report towards consolidating the terms of reference and general operational issues pertaining to the Integrity Commission that was appointed in February this year, chaired by Dr. Frank Chikane, deputized by Mama Sophie de Bruyn. The Integrity Commission presented the report with various proposals, and it was resolved that this process will continue with further engagement with the officials and the NWC. The ANC is committed to restoring the integrity of the ANC by upholding high ethical standards that go beyond mere legal obligations. Integrity and ethics are an important pillar of the renewal program, which is aimed at regaining the moral and intellectual high ground to inspire public confidence in the leadership of the ANC by the masses of our people. Accordingly, all ANC members and leadership structures will undergo training on ethics and integrity as part of the political education curriculum that is being rolled out across the country. On the international situation, the Russia-Ukraine situation has been ongoing for more than a year, at a great cost to global peace, security, and stability. This has further compounded the dire humanitarian situation and also the huge impact on the cost of living for ordinary people across the world, especially those from the developing world, particularly Africa. Moments like this call for sustained leadership on our part and for wisdom and sober thinking to prevail. The African Leaders' Peace Initiative to Russia and Ukraine, aimed at silencing the guns, is the only sensible path out of this bloodshed. The only way to save the two countries from further destruction of property, deaths, and the displacement of many communities. The National Executive Committee applauded the role played by our President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, in this African Leaders' Peace Initiative. The people of Ukraine and Russia will have to live together after this war, like it has been the case for hundreds of years. They will need to heal after the downing of the arms. The air of hatred must be cleared before it becomes entrenched in the hearts and minds of these people forever and across generations. The sooner this war ends, the better. We therefore call for immediate ceasefire and resumption of the talks between and among the parties. Such talks will have to be guided by the relevant provisions of the United Nations Charter and a sense of collective security that is inclusive and cognizant of security concerns of all relevant parties. The ANC stands ready to support the peace initiative. We are historic friends to the two sides to this war. Many of our cadres lived in places like Kiev and Moscow and Odessa during the difficult years of our struggle against apartheid. We remain grateful to the sacrifices of the peoples of Ukraine and Russia for our freedom. We know both the sufferings of war and the benefits of peace. Our only wish is for peace and for lasting peace to prevail, and most importantly, friendly neighborliness. It is a similar stance we have over the Israel-Palestine conflict, wherein we continue to call for the two-states solution, with both countries living side by side in harmony and peace. The same applies between Morocco and Western Sahara as two independent states living in peace with each other, and also for democratization in Eswatini to prevail. International finance on Africa's development. The NEC noted that because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, various countries have redirected their funding away from projects to combat climate change through green energy sources in favor of supporting Ukraine. President Cyril Ramaphosa was very critical of these shifts, as this demonstrated that countries of the North do not take African lives seriously. This is because shifting of funding to Ukraine away from Africa's development programs showed the lack of commitment by countries of the North on Africa's economic development against the backdrop of the disproportionate impact of climate change has on the African continent. Therefore, the NEC called for the reform of the global finance systems, among others, to enable rapid and sustained development in Africa. On international investments, the National Executive Committee commended the work by the President on mobilizing and attracting international investment into our economy, which has yielded over 1.5 trillion from the private sector against a target of 1.3 trillion. This will certainly boost our economic growth and job creation efforts. We are confident that government will put in place the necessary institutional arrangements to monitor and oversee the implementation of these initiatives. We note the steady recovery of our economy with 0.4 growth domestic product increase. And this in itself is a clear demonstration that we are on the recovery from the blood shed during COVID-19. where we realized job losses of 2 million people in the economy. On service delivery in the municipalities, the NEC reiterated the National Conference resolution that local government service delivery programs must be strengthened, as it is the sphere of government closest to the people. The NEC calls on all national and provincial departments to effectively support service delivery in all municipalities and not wait until delivery of any services collapses. The NEC commits itself to accelerated and comprehensive service delivery, and in this regard, we will ensure that no municipality returns funds to Treasury simply because they have not been used. The NEC noted and welcomed the work led by the national government to bring all political parties and civil society together into a national dialogue that should produce a national framework and consequently a piece of legislation that will help to stabilize hung councils and coalition governments in municipalities. This is in line with the decision of the NEC of April, which adopted a comprehensive perspective on coalitions. The NEC hereby reiterates the April NEC position that the ANC is focusing on achieving an outright victory in the forthcoming 2024 elections. Accordingly, we are therefore not engaging in any coalition talks with any party. All hands are on deck to get an overwhelming mandate to continue with the democratic transformation agenda we started in 1994. On Constitutional Court judgment on Advocate Mkhwebane, the NEC welcomes the judgment by the Constitutional Court on the decision by President Cyril Ramaphosa to place Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane on suspension. The Public Protector had sought the Court to declare that the suspension was irrational, unconstitutional, and invalid. The judgment effectively declared that there was no conflict of interest between the private affairs of the President and his decision to suspend the Public Protector, and thereby sustained her suspension. As the ANC, we had actively followed these developments and feel vindicated that the President acted in an impartial and beyond reproach manner when suspending the Public Protector. The ANC calls upon all state organs to speedily move forward to bring stability to the office of the Public Protector, an important constitutional organ in our democratic dispensation. On ARTO judgment, the ANC welcomes the Constitutional Court ruling in favor of the government initiative to introduce a demerit for road traffic offenders. The High Court declared the administrative adjudication of road traffic offenses, ARTO, unconstitutional and invalid. In its judgment, the Constitutional Court set aside the High Court judgment, which declared ARTO Act unconstitutional and invalid. Chief Justice stated that the ARTO Act is constitutional and valid and falls squarely within Schedule 4, which is concurrent function of national and provincial sphere of government, and that national government and Minister of Transport oversees implementation of such legislation. The court confirmed our long-held view that no province has the constitutional mandate to pass laws regulating matters of traffic offenses, as that will create unnecessary chaos. If each province and municipality can pass its own laws regulating such, the ANC welcomes the Constitutional Court judgment that confirms the constitutionality of ARTO and will urge the Minister of Transport to move with speed in finalizing its commencement to save lives due to carnage on our roads. The ANC would like to advise all NGOs to cease from delaying government policy and implementation by mounting unnecessary court challenges, as this is not in the best interest of the country. as the ANC, we are concerned about the trend of mushrooming of NGOs that have only one mandate, which is to keep government busy in courts. Government policy and its implementation through legislation cannot be second-guessed through a non-existent electoral mandate. On mobilization of communities to fight crime, the National Executive Committee reflected on the seriousness of crime in South Africa and how it erodes the fundamental freedoms and hard-won human rights of individuals and communities as enshrined in the Constitution. The NEC noted in many instances the criminals that commit crimes in various communities are usually known to members of the given community. The NEC therefore called on strengthening of community policing forums to boost efforts at combating crime. Amongst the priority crimes are those on housebreaking, GBV, murder and car hijacking. The ANC calls on the SABC to strengthen fighting both organized crime and the crimes that affect ordinary citizens. The ANC calls for the creation of a specialized unit comprising of the South African National Defence Force, the SABC, and the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy and Home Affairs to combat illegal mining as zamazamas. The NEC looked at the possibilities of creating a drug police unit whose members are not drawn from members of the community that they are servicing. As in many instances, the police are reluctant to arrest organized crime drug lords for fear of reprisal on their families. The NEC noted the seriousness of violent crimes, such as cash in transit, heists, often leading to deaths. The police must be empowered to effectively defend themselves from armed syndicates that threaten the lives of people and the police. The NEC committed itself to developing a new strategy to deal with violent crimes. The ANC commits itself to take steps to combat crime which erode people's human rights through theft, physical and emotional injury, and death. This will include ensuring that the police are appropriately supported through relevant equipment, such as vehicles that can match up to combating organized crimes, such as cash in transit heists. The ANC further urges its members to be involved in community policing forums. VBS report and consequence management. The NEC reflected on the issues relating to the plunder of VBS and further noted consequence management was taking place in various municipalities, with some municipality managers and finance managers resigning while some of the funds irregularly invested in VBS being recouped. However, the NEC further noted that in many instances, large sums of funds were never recovered, having also noted that some provinces have outstanding reports on consequence management. The NEC urges all those outstanding provinces to submit the reports. The NEC further noted that whilst municipalities suffered financial loss, it was also worrisome that members of various communities suffered huge financial losses through savings on ventures such as stokvels in some areas. The Kgalema Motlanthe report will be dealt with in a virtual meeting to consolidate the report, particularly as it relates to outstanding matters with regard to the election of public representatives in local government. On construction mafias, the NEC noted the growing menace of the construction mafia that seeks to extort legitimate businesses in our country. The NEC received a report from the Peace and Stability Subcommittee on the state of crime in our country. It has instructed the committee to come with specific measures to effectively respond to the shenanigans of this mafia in the construction industry. BRICS plus political party dialogue and BRICS summit. Having reflected on both the BRICS Plus political parties dialogue and the BRICS Summit, the NEC resolved to clarify to the public that whereas BRICS Summit in August is a government event, the BRICS Plus political parties dialogue is essentially an ANC initiative on political solidarity with political parties from other countries. The BRICS Plus political parties dialogue will be convened this week from the 18th to 20th of July, 2023. This meeting will be attended by eminent persons in the form of former presidents in South Africa, in the African continent. The NEC noted that South Africa has not yet received confirmation on whether or not President Putin intends attending the BRICS Summit following the ICC verdict against him. Review of the 2019 Elections Manifesto. The ANC, together with its allies, the SACP, COSATU, and SANCO, held a review on the implementation of the 2019 Election Manifesto. The meeting also received a presentation on the content and extent of transformation from the Statistician General, Mr. Mbalula. It is important to note that headcount poverty decreased from 17.9% in 2001 to 7.0% in 2016. 89.1% of South African households have access to improved water sources. All provinces, except for Northwestern Gauteng, have 90% main connections for electricity. As a result of social grants, vulnerability to hunger has declined significantly up until 2019, with a slight increase in 2020. Access to health care has improved, evidenced by the fact that 65.5% of South Africans first consult a public clinic when they are not well. The 2019 Manifesto review will continue, with alliance partners urged to contribute their own review of the 2019 Election Manifesto. The 2024 National General Election Manifesto Drafting Committee will include the alliance. In August, we will roll out a massive program to report back to the nation on what we have done to implement our manifesto in the past 4 years. The report back program will start with a national event in August in Soweto, Jabulani Amphitheatre, and followed by provincial general meetings in all provinces, in all 54 regions of our country. On elections 2024, the ANC National Executive Committee discussed matters pertaining the 2024 National General Elections and declared that its readiness to contest the elections next year. The ANC will be seized with finalizing candidate selection procedures and is in the progress of reviewing its existing members of parliament and the provincial legislatures who served as public representatives during the 6th democratic administration. The NEC welcomes the launch of its youth voter registration campaign, which took place in Mpumalanga, where during the event over 1,000 young people registered for the first time and expressed their willingness to be part of determining the future. The NEC encourages all its structures to ensure that the IEC online registration is utilized to ensure that the millions of unregistered young voters and those who change provinces are able to participate in the 2024 national and provincial elections. On economic transformation and cost of living, the National Executive Committee, the National Executive Committee discussed the persistent rise in the cost of living in the post-COVID period and considered a series of interventions to curb this trend. persistent load shedding, and the disruption to global food supplies due to the Russia-Ukraine war have put pressure on domestic inflation, thereby accelerating the rise in the cost of living. As a medium to long-term strategy, the National Executive Committee agreed that the most sustainable way of responding to the rising cost of living is to ensure that we focus our efforts in growing the economy based on expanded domestic production. The continued interventions and the visible progress to end load shedding should begin to stabilize productivity in South Africa, reduce running costs for businesses, and therefore decelerate inflation. Similarly, the opening of global food supply chains, as negotiated by the Africa Heads of State mission in Russia, Ukraine, will help bring global inflation under control by the fourth quarter of 2023. This notwithstanding, the NEC agreed that urgent intervention must be pursued in the short term to rescue the South African working and middle classes from the rising cost of living. The NEC further noted that the Reserve Bank has a mandate to pursue price stability in the interest of balanced growth. The NEC raised concern about the current trend of rising interest rates and their inflationary impact on the cost of living by depleting disposable incomes of millions of our people who are already facing severe financial pressures. This trend subdues consumer demand, which is a critical element for economic growth. The NEC further does not believe that this untenable trend in rate hikes is in the interest of balanced growth. The NEC therefore directed the Minister of Finance to urgently hold discussions with the South African Reserve Bank, as mandated by the Constitution, to explore other measures to manage the current economic challenges other than raising interest rates. The NEC has also urged government to continue with the COVID-19 relief grant to ensure that families do not go to bed without food. Government must relook at previous interventions that gave households relief, such as increasing the basket of zero-rated food. Government must engage with the retail sector to ensure that what we see as declining food prices globally is factored in the domestic market. Explore relief utilizing fuel levy, as this will protect disposable income of households. Interventions to improve the overall scale of food production in the country must be pursued with a view towards keeping food prices in check as a measure of food security. Furthermore, the National Executive Committee directed the Economic Transformation Committee to develop a high-impact strategy to foster inclusive economic growth, boost employment on the basis of industrialization, and contain the rise in the cost of living in the short to medium term. The National Executive Committee expressed that measures to industrialize and create sustainable employment opportunities must begin on the back of the local manufacturing of green energy technologies such as solar panels. The NEC also applauded initiatives implemented in Gauteng by the Premier and his Executive Council, and called on all other provinces to focus on rapid job-creating interventions that, among others, deal with potholes, crime prevention, and mega construction projects on roads, bridges, and water reservoir construction, which also add value to infrastructure and the economy. Government must utilize its fiscus to support economic programs that lighten the burden borne by the poor beyond social grants. On broad-based black economic empowerment, the National Executive Committee noted various court judgments as a consequence of challenges to black empowerment legislation, such as the principle of once empowered, always empowered on the mining charter. The developmental finance institutions must review and change funding models of previously disadvantaged individuals, such as the requirement to have 20% of the funding that is applied for. Those who qualify to receive funds must be promptly and clearly communicated with to enable them to participate and benefit from the opportunities they are pursuing. The ANC recommits itself to accelerating black economic empowerment, to heal the divisions on the past on the economic inequality as enjoined by the Constitution, by supporting black industrialists and other businesses. Compliance with BBBEE legislation in this regard will be of utmost importance. On Employment Equity Act, the NEC welcomed the amendments to the Employment Equity Regulations, which aims to advance equality in the workplace across race, gender, and class, particularly with respect to management levels in the private and public sector. However, the NEC condemns the malicious distortions of these noble, transformative policies for the narrow political expediency to garner electoral votes on racial grounds, as has been in some municipal by-elections by some political parties, which distort this particular intervention as an isolation of colored and Indian people. It is not correct. It is a distortion. The ANC will never support or advance a policy that discriminates against our people. African Minerals Commission, the NEC received and welcomed the discussion about the establishment of an African Minerals Commission. Such a commission will operate more like OPEC in advancing the interests of the African member countries in the context of the global minerals market. It will define the parameters of the production and trade of minerals in the global economy. It will ensure that the peoples and the countries with a mineral inheritance are the principal beneficiaries of natural endowments of their countries. The NEC will support more mineral exploration funding to ensure South Africa's industrialization and energy security. On mineral beneficiation, the NEC noted strides being made to consolidate our beneficiation strategy. In line with this discussion, the NEC restated the necessity to implement the old and well-held position of the ANC to beneficiate our minerals and enable rapid industrialization. Going forward, the NEC instructs its Economic Transformation Committee to come up with guidelines and concrete steps to effect beneficiation of our minerals. Minerals beneficiation holds huge potential with regards to South Africa's industrialization, new entrepreneurship opportunities, economic growth and employment creation, whilst simultaneously increasing the value add of our exports and thereby increasing national revenue. On water security and service delivery, the NEC reiterates the importance of water as a basic resource essential for community sustainability, livelihood, as well as industrial operations. The NEC noted current challenges with regards to access to water, noting that this challenge will escalate as the economy and the population grow into the future. Accordingly, the NEC resolved to investigate building more water reservoir infrastructure. Such infrastructure must not only focus on servicing industrial areas such as Gauteng, as it has been with the apartheid projects, but to serve all provinces. The NEC calls on all spheres of government to ensure that communities benefit from water reservoirs built within their neighborhood, as that is not only just an issue, but may also legitimately raise social discontentment if not addressed. The NEC also calls for rapid interventions to ensure access to water to combat waterborne diseases such as cholera. On national health insurance, the NEC welcomed advanced stages towards the implementation of the national health insurance. This is a radical reform. This will enable universal and equitable access to health by all. The NEC urged the Department of Health to accelerate revamping public health facilities to strengthen the pathway towards the NHI. On illegal initiation schools, the NEC notes and is very much unhappy with the continued death and gender mutilation of young men by illegal initiation schools. The ANC calls on communities to report any illegal initiation school activities to law enforcement. The ANC-NEC also calls on national, provincial, and local governments to cooperate in closing down all illegal initiation schools and ensure programs are in place to stop these criminal practices that lead to the death of innocent young people. Law enforcement must ensure that all criminals involved must face the might of the law. This battle will be won through the cooperation of communities and law enforcement agencies. On immigration challenges, the NEC noted the various challenges the country is facing on immigration, which undermine the integrity of our state, our national security, as well as social and economic stability. The current migration system is weak and unworkable, resulting in the processing of backlogs which will take years to complete. It is also being abused and exploited by criminal syndicates and some individual foreign nationals. There is an urgent need to completely overhaul the various pieces of legislation to meet the new challenges that include policy framework proposals on citizenship and on immigration. In addition, South Africa must investigate either withdrawing or amending our commitments to some of the international statutes that do not serve our national interest. Meanwhile, the NEC commits itself to clamping down on our porous borders. Illegal immigration that put a serious strain on South Africa's fiscus, as well as planned social services, including an influx at our health institutions, crowded informal settlements that further demand more water, sanitation, electricity, school facilities, and other infrastructure expenditures. We reiterate that South Africa must live in peace with all countries of the world, premised on, among others, a just immigration dispensation. It is with all other states across the world. The NEC further reiterates that legal immigrants in line with our laws are welcome, irrespective of country of origin. But South Africa's fiscus has no capacity to absorb all the socio-economic challenges of the rest of the world. The NEC also noted the need for SADC, the AU, and other multilateral or regional organs to be engaged on immigration issues. On the Grand Inga, drawing from the outcomes of the South African Democratic Republic of Congo Binational Commission, the important initiative of the Grand Inga Hydro Energy Initiative was discussed by the meeting. The NEC agreed that South Africa must participate and partner economically in the project to secure megawatts critical for our development. On banning of trucks, the ANC has observed and condemns the anarchist behavior of arsonists who have banned trucks in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga. This is not an act of protest. It is an unacceptable, violent, and cowardly behavior that has no place in our democracy. We support the initiative by government to seek to bring to book the perpetrators of these heinous crimes. And government, law enforcement must work with communities to deal with these criminals who are burning trucks, because that is an act of economic sabotage. The NEC felt that as we undertake the critical task of the socio-economic transformation of our country, we must be informed by our character as a disciplined force of the left. We are not just trying to develop our country, we are doing so informed by the prescripts of the National Democratic Revolution, at whose center are the interests of the immense majority, the working class, the rural poor, the black middle class, and the patriotic businesses. On the United Democratic Front 40th anniversary, the ANC notes and welcomes the 40th anniversary celebrations of the United Democratic Front. Indeed, the launch of the UDF 40 years ago was a seminal development in the struggle against apartheid colonialism. It is an important and heroic part of our history. The ANC officials and the NWC will continue to engage the comrades leading the celebrations on the way forward. The NEC resolved that the ANC must play a leading role in this UDF anniversary celebrations. NWC visits, the NEC welcomed and expressed its appreciation of the ongoing NWC visits to provinces. These visits are critical in bringing the leadership closer to the members. They create a platform for the leadership to learn firsthand of the problems and the challenges facing the people. They enable the national leadership to do proper oversight on the state of the provincial and local state to give guidance to all our structures. The NEC further noted that the image of leaders counts as communication tool of the ANC as part of our communications plan. The ANC-NEC resolved to robustly and dynamically consolidate our communication strategy, guided by the principle of one message, many voices. The NEC believes that our message must be heard everywhere in South Africa. Apart from the challenges that the ANC has encountered, the good story of our achievements must not be lost. The ground covered to advance development must also be effectively communicated. This is more the case as we mark 3 decades of our freedom and constitutional democracy from 1994 to 2024. The ANC commits itself towards strengthening the alliance, underscored by the recent meetings we have had with the SACP and SANCO. The ANC commits itself to hold further meetings with its alliance partners, including on critical issues of the 2019 Manifesto review, as well as drafting the 2024 election manifesto. The ANC is working hard to assist SANCO to become a united and a stronger civic movement, and thereby strengthen the mass democratic character of the progressive forces for change. It is the view of the NEC that the coming together of the 2 main groups to rebuild the civic movement is an important step in the right direction. It must be supported by all progressive forces, and we must all close ranks to reinforce the initiative. Like I said, we endorse the integration process led by the President, Richard Klope, and the Secretary General, Mike Soko, and their collective teams, working with all the provinces. We are aware that there are people who are working to register SANCO as a political party. We are opposed to that initiative. So is SANCO also opposed to that initiative. The integration process will work to engage all who want to be part of the unification of SANCO in our country. And we look forward to a SANCO conference in November that will take place in South Africa. And the comrades are here to speak for themselves about the way forward in terms of the integration process. The ANC Women's League is poised to convene its national conference in the next 2 weeks. The ANC Women's League is the biggest organization of progressive women in our country. We see it as a leading force in the fight against the legacy and continuing reality of triple oppression of black women in our country. The ANC remains committed to supporting the ANC Women's League in its various programs towards the full emancipation of women, young women, and the girl child. The ANC noted that the Veterans League will hold its national conference also later this month. The ANC look forward to the Veterans League serving as the moral compass of our movement as we navigate various complex national transformation issues, both on organizational and governance issues. The ANC will continue to sip from the timeless wisdom and counsel of its veterans, some of whom have been appointed into the Integrity Commission, while some play vital roles on various platforms, including the structures of the ANC. We venerate and celebrate our veterans for the heroic role they played in our struggle and look forward to holding hands with them in the ongoing struggle to transform our socio-economic landscape. MK Liberation War veterans, the NEC noted and welcomed the important work that the organization does with respect to our Liberation War veterans. The welfare of the veterans is a critical part of our work. We see MKLWV as an important platform to address the socio-economic needs of all those who sacrifice their lives through military combat for the liberation of our country. The ANC will always avail itself to attend to their needs. The ANC will deepen their integration to the life of the organization, particularly in the work of political education. In this area, the Liberation War veterans can assist to instill values of sacrifice, loyalty, honor, and dedication to a younger generation of ANC members. The NEC welcomed and celebrated the successful convening of the 26th National Congress of the ANC Youth League after a difficult period of 8 years. As President O.R. Tambo once said, a nation that does not care for its youth does not deserve its future. The Youth League is a very important component of the ANC. It is the training school for ANC leaders. We look forward to listening to the voice of young people on the critical challenges facing the youth and the country. The ANC has sorely missed the vigor, vitality, and impatience of the youth, which is indispensable in a revolutionary movement attending to the task of fundamental change. The ANC Youth League will help with the revitalization of the youth development programs on unemployment, skills development, and youth entrepreneurship. Not only will the Youth League champion this youth development interest, it will also mobilize them behind the decisive ANC electoral victory in 2024 national general elections. The ANC also commits itself towards assisting SASCO and COSAS to build united and stronger organization. The ANC fully supports the consolidation of the Progressive Youth Alliance, constituting of the ANC Youth League, SASCO, Young Communist League, and COSAS. The ANC will support the PYA as it mobilizes various youth formations on progressive youth development agenda, including ensuring that the NYDA is accessible to all youths in our country. On solidarity with Palestine, the NEC noted with grave concern the escalation of violence against the Palestinian people. Of greater concern to the NEC is the disproportionate and brutal actions of the Israeli Defense Force in Jenin. The violence against the Palestinian people, the continuing occupation and dispossession of the Palestinian land and properties, and the normalization of apartheid practices and religious intolerances are in direct violation of the United Nations Charter and UN resolutions. These horrific events take place in the year when the world commemorates 75 years of the Nakba, when over 700 Palestinian villages were destroyed and Palestinians displaced to create the State of Israel. The NEC reiterated the ANC's position on the inalienable right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, freedom, independence, justice, and equality. The National Executive Committee noted the participation of Israeli football team Maccabi Tel Aviv in the FIFA pre-season training camp hosted in Spain, in which South African football club Orlando Pirates is participating. In this regard, the NEC noted that this pre-season camp has raised important discussions about South Africa and the progressive world extending the economic sanctions and boycotts of Israeli goods to include the cultural and sports isolation as additional forms of pressure for peace. Although South Africa has no existing decision on a sports boycott against Israel, the climate in Palestine coinciding with this camp raises legitimate moral concerns. The ANC has already raised these concerns with the leadership of Orlando Pirates Football Club and discussed their difficult position given that their participation in the training camp is organized by FIFA. The ANC is going to continue engaging with its progressive allies in Palestine and the world over about this matter of a sports and cultural boycott. These are being discussed among all peace-loving global citizens and countries, but have not yet been concluded. In conclusion, the National Executive Committee reaffirmed the urgency of implementing programs arising from the ANC National Conference resolutions. While striving for clean audits in the course of government work, such audits must be underpinned by radical and accelerated socio-economic transformation. Whilst focused on short-term interventions, the ANC must not lose sight of programs aimed at lasting solutions on growing the economy, underpinned by equality across race, gender, and class. The ANC must seek to redress the apartheid-era economic monopoly patterns. The ANC will rapidly utilize its command of state power to ensure a developmental state in line with our National Conference resolutions. The NEC paid tribute to comrades that recently passed on. Once more, we dip our revolutionary banner in honor of Comrade Blanche Laguma, Isop Pahat, Maruma Katija Kachalia, Noganiwe Anti Nyatela, Tiego Museneke, Junaid Pahat, Mesa Ali Motlana, Tina Jumat Peterson, Amos and Betty Kumede, Silo Mudibedi, and Zoliswa Funiselo, Mluleki Obrimali, Ntombizotwa Doris Skosana, Billy Masetla, Joe Mpisi, David Nidri Blanco Mabaso, Mukholodi Kora Dikhatwi, Klas Dionge, Buyiswa Nomkai, Bulawa, and Harry Belafonte. We convey our heartfelt condolences to their loved ones. We also dip our revolutionary banner in memory of Comrade Deni Mukumo from Ward 31, TJ Lidwaba branch, Mukopani, Mokhalagwe sub-region, Waterberg region in Limpopo region, province. He was a current ANC Youth League branch chairperson, an ANC BC member, who died as a result of a car crash involving a truck on the 3rd of July, 2023 on N1 North on his way from the 26th ANC Youth League National Congress. He was both a delegate as well as part of the medical team. We convey our best wishes for good health to Comrade Aziz Pahat, Bushi Mape, Nef Manana, and Donovan Klute. Thank you very much.
Comprehensive, maybe not long. Thank you, SG. With that, may I then invite members of the media? Any takers? Should I look this side or that side? Always start on my left. So I will start with Junior. Not that audible.
Did the ANC's top leadership discuss the judgment by the Constitutional Court on the former President Jacob Zuma? Was there any meeting by the security cluster ministers with regards to what may happen if the former president is asked to go back to prison? We saw what happened in 2021. It seemed like the security cluster was caught napping. Would there be a repeat of that, or are they meeting in advance to discuss such issues? I'll keep it at that.
Thanks, Junior. Shall I go this side? Ndebo?
Okay, Ndebo with the SABC. Yes, I just wanted to talk on what Junior said about the judgment, the Constitutional Court judgment, and secondly on the FIFA, the Orlando Pirates game with an Israeli team. Every time the ANC has got a problem with anyone within the country having some dealings with Israel, but some people are saying it's hypocritical because our government has got some diplomatic relations with Israel, despite the fact that maybe their embassy has been downgraded. But what remains is that you've got a diplomatic relations with Israel. And as you said, SG, that the match is presided over by FIFA, so there is nothing that Orlando Pirates can do. Secondly, on the judgment by the Constitutional Court, the two Concord judgments, is there anything to read from the coincidence that the two judgments on the former president and the suspended public protector, can we read something from that coincidence? And if I may ask, what kind of public protector does the ANC really want? I mean, I'm saying this against the backdrop of one advocate, Tulima Donsenga, who at some point made some scathing or came up with serious findings against the former president or against the ANC president, then President Zuma. She was really fined and called all sorts of names. And Kusisiwe Mkwebana again came and she found she had some findings against the current president again, and the ANC is not happy at all. So I'm asking, what kind of a public protector do you really want? Do you want someone who's pliant or someone who's not gonna find anything against the ANC?
Thank you, Tim.
I think for now, yes, sir.
All right, thanks. I've got my brother right there at the back. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Also interested to find out the ANC's stance on the Constitutional Court judgment, given what please Mr. Brita said yesterday on being ready for any eventuality. Also just maybe to follow up as to what you said around load shedding, just to get clarity. Are you saying we're most likely going to see the end of it by 2023 in December, just to get clarity on that? Also, on BRICS and President Putin, you did mention that the ANC had not gotten the go-ahead on whether it's coming or not. But did you discuss, as the ANC, what you want to happen, given that ICC warrant of arrest? Would you, as the African National Congress, want him to be arrested? You also touched on the torching of trucks. Maybe, do you think enough is being done? Because this has been going on for some time now, SG, in terms of the torching of trucks. And also, maybe lastly, around some of what we heard from the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, suggesting that he is to be ousted by August, and the president also clarified that that is not going to happen. So was that discussed by the ANC? Maybe trying to get clarity on actually what's happening there.
What about Mashati?
The suggestion that we made to media that people are out to oust him by August.
Are you done, Anyway? All right, thank you very much. I will then turn to USG.
And maybe not just the
Okay,
it's
some
just-
indulgement there.
no, okay. No, on the judgment on the former president. Is the ANC maybe? Are you irritated as the ANC by the former president's sort of legal wrangling between him and the current president that you don't even care whatever happens to him? Do you want really to see him going to jail as the Constitutional Court says? And would you take a posture that says you respect the courts? If the court has decided that he goes to jail, so be it.
Junior from Newsroom Africa, postponement happened because of various reasons, which some are technical and so on. It coincided with a number of events in the calendar plans that we actually had, which we thought that will not get the message across, because government also had some important work that it was doing this past week. So it has been a fairly busy week. So that is why the postponement, because it is important that the message of the National Executive Committee must be understood and come across to the rest of the populace at the right time, so that people understand the ANC, and the ANC speak for itself and is not second-guessed by anyone. Did we discuss the matter? First, what we need to clarify is that we respect the courts and their outcome. The moral perspective to it is that we empathize with President Zuma, and no one wants to see anyone at the age of 80 going to jail. But in this instance, the law is the law, and government must deal with all the pros and cons. Interpreting the judgment, we've had voodoo lawyers here interpreting the judgment their own way. Others say doesn't mean he must go to jail. Others say he must. Obviously, government need to look at all those things. What is in the best interest of the country and what is the correct interpretation of the law. So we are an organization that upholds the rule of law in our country. And then if there's anything about judgments that we are not pleased about, we challenge them. And then we engage with them sensibly and with facts. So the ANC does not go around making out of 10 remarks about judgments. We focus on the law, and in this particular instance, that's what we're looking at. And then in terms of the security cluster, its job is to maintain law and order and ensure that nothing can culminate into acts of economic sabotage, lawlessness, because those acts tarnish the authority of the state, that we are a banana republic, we are a lawless society. Then people, the inhabitants of this country, do not feel safe, because the state and the rule of law is shaky. What happened in July shouldn't have happened. You apply the rule of law in terms of the state, you clamp down on anarchy. The first thing that happens, you clamp down on anarchy. The same as with the torching of trucks. Crime intelligence must do its work. We must find these people who are torching trucks and deal with it from the point of view of stamping the authority of the state. And the citizens of the country must work with the police as informers and then at the same time as participants in terms of these social contracts that we have with our people. Ntebu, government diplomatic relations have been downgraded. The predicament which we have, which must be addressed by all peace-loving people, is the question of how do we treat the state of Israel? Miss South Africa went to Israel. We made calls that she must not go. She went to Israel. We're having some trade relations with Israel. Some of the grapes you eat from Woolworths come from Israel. Maccabi get invited. Our team here, Orlando Pirates, goes there. Then people have been killed in Jenin. What is our policy response to that? Let's not look at Orlando Pirates, because Orlando Pirates will never defy sports boycott. What our people, justifiably so, were saying to Orlando Pirates, don't play Maccabi in light of what is happening as an act of solidarity. Pirates find itself in a precarious position because it's invited in this tournament. It won with one goal. Iran plays America in the World Cup. The stadium is sold out. And yet Iran is subjected to economic sanctions. Banyana, they win a Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Morocco has suppressed the people of Western Sahara. Morocco has suppressed the people of Western Sahara. We won against Morocco in Morocco, stadium full. We beat them. What do? When we enjoyed international support in South Africa, there were sports boycotts imposed because apartheid was declared a sin against humanity. What is happening there in Israel cannot go unchallenged. So that is why we say we need to engage on this matter. We want a peaceful settlement. And our approach is a two-state solution. Israel living side by side with Palestine. Palestine as a recognized state. No violence will end that carnage there. Killing of innocent people and children. So we need this. We need first to accelerate and not give up on peace initiatives. At some point, we're this close to attaining peace. And then we went back on the other side to the second intifada. And then we lost ground. We need to go back. We can't give up on what is happening there between Palestine and Israel. And we need to put pressure on the state of Israel for de-escalation of violence and killing of innocent people. And that is what is important. We need to do, and we need to work towards. And all forms of pressure must be applied, including the possibility of calling for the for imposing sports boycott on Israel, so that we don't have this back and forth confusion about how do we treat that state, which has basically used weapons of war to settle a dispute. And that's what we need to deal with. We want a public protector who acts and is informed by the law, and that's what we want. ANC at some point was not happy with the public protector, Thuli Madonsela, but Thuli Madonsela's actions were vindicated by the courts, and the ANC was proven to be on the wrong. In terms of Nkandla report, she was. So the ANC lost, and the ANC have accepted self-correction. That's why in our manifesto, we say there is a point in time where we veered off. We did. Because when the public protector said in a report, President pay, and the Minister of Finance will make a determination, and then he says, President, you became a beneficiary of this, but you were not the architect of this mess. To an extent that you became a beneficiary, pay some amount of money. The ANC did not listen to that report, read it correctly. It went and established an ad hoc committee, which was proven to be unconstitutional. Based on Mohlaudi Mutswene's temporary victory in the High Court of Cape Town, that the public protector's powers are not enforceable, Thuli Madonsela went back and went to the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court said public protector's recommendations are enforceable. They are enforceable. If you don't agree with them, you can take them on review. Full story. There is recourse to both sides. So, Thuli Madonsela stood her ground. She went through a lot of vilification because of her decisions. Stood her ground in terms of dealing with state capture, investigations, and then brought a report. And then, as a result of that report, the ANC have accepted and implemented her recommendations. We did not take them on review. We implemented the recommendation to establish a commission of inquiry. Because at some point, we did veer off, we came back, and we implemented those particular recommendations. That's why we had a state capture commission, of which Justice Zondo became the appointed chairperson. So, Thuli Madonsela's decisions, as much as she was criticized, but she could stand her ground in terms of the law. Mkhwebana lost everything. Everything. I don't know how much he owes the state and the lawyers. The fact that she's still standing, she has just been proven beyond reasonable doubt as a delinquent of law. Mkhwebana. So her time is off. She's been investigated there by Parliament. We've taken steps. She's fighting there to get a pension maybe of 10 million and so on. So that's why we want Janki to go. So Mkhwebana has failed in terms of the law. Her decisions were overturned. And then she has become a delinquent who actually now campaigns and attacks judges. Where have you seen an advocate like that at the helm of the Public Protector's Office attacking judges? There is civility that governs these people, lawyers and the people of the law. There is civility that governs them, how you go about it and so we people who are in the streets, we have our own interpretation of the law in terms of natural justice. Now, we can say anything because we don't know the law. But those who know the law must have a proper and correct interpretation of the law. So, Mkwewana lost everything in terms of her decisions. Public Protector's office, you occupy it, you get nominated and elected by Parliament, you must exercise and prove to the public that you are the public protector. Your decisions can be challenged, but you will win the light of day. Now, if you lose your decisions, in the court of law you are being tested. We don't want a public protector like that. We want a sober public protector who can defend their decisions in the court of law. Kollega has been attacked, including about a membership of the Youth League at some point, or whatever that she was. Anyone can be a member of a political party, but when you resume particular duties, you not serve the party, you serve the public. At any given point in time, somebody belonged to a political party. Any judge in this country, at some point at school, was a member of SASCO, was an activist, but today they are judges. At some point, they were members of the ANC. Justice Zondo at some point served as a lawyer supporting ANC members. So, are you going to be judged on the basis of your work or on the basis of your membership? At some point, that you were a member of a particular organ. Kollega, when she was a member of the Youth League, she was a prosecutor of the state. She was a prosecutor of Fundile Landomazan. Before she was an advisor to Malusi, she was a prosecutor of the state. So that's what she is. And her decisions must be tested and be challenged in a court of law. And then she can go there and defend those decisions from a point of law. It's of no consequence to insult people without testing the law and giving them names and all of that. So we believe that judges are not demigods. The public protector is not a demigod. Their decisions can be challenged and can be taken on review at any given point in time. That's how the law functions. It allows recourse within the system. One leader always decried the fact that what do you have beyond the Constitutional Court? And Dalimpofu came with that thing. What did they call it? When he challenged the Constitutional Court decision. What? Yeah, rescission application. Dalimpofu taught us about the rescission, which we people who are not law people, we didn't know. So he came with rescission, challenging the Constitutional Court. So our constitutional democracy, how it has been in terms of the rule of law, has allowed for a recourse at any given stage and time. Load shedding time frame. Look, we want load shedding gone yesterday. It has been ramped up as a result of this coldness and so on. But we're making strides, and we see that. We salute ESCOM and the leadership led by Sputla and all the ministers involved, Pravin Gordhan and Gwede Madashi, and everyone. And ESCOM, these things are not just happening on their own. They happen because somebody's at work, is doing something. So we see this progress. It needs to be ramped up, and we're confident with what is presented before us December might be too far, but load shedding should be something of the past, not for political management. We're told at some point that load shedding is gone. And then only to find that it was gone because we're banning diesel. That's what happened. So it was not gone forever. So if something you announce to the public is gone, it means even if Mbalula comes and take over, the rate that came in, you wouldn't find load shedding because it's gone. It doesn't depend on an individual engineering skills. It depends on sustainability and the interventions you have made to make it a point that it is gone. BRICS, BRICS in terms of President Putin, government is dealing with those issues, and President at that given point, there's no use to confuse society and speak over this matter, all of us. We will urge government to handle this matter with care, and the President is dealing with the matter, implications of the law, whether this is doable. If it is doable, it will happen. We support as the ANC, but we leave it to government, capable hands of the President and his government to deal with the matter of President Putin and so on. We all know that we are signatories to the Rome Statutes. We are prohibited by the law, or we have the law clearly states that if a warrant of arrest is done, a country which is a signatory will have to take steps. But from the point of the law and dealing with the matter, government is very much capable to get proper advices, deal with the matters at their disposal in the best interest of the country and BRICS. That's what is important. So they are dealing with that matter at their level, so we don't want to spoil it by speaking out of turn, like as if we are not matured and organized people. We are organized. The President will brief us and the nation about the way forward. We are South Africa. We are organized. We can't behave like as if we are not being led. There is a president in this country. His name is Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, a man who got into a train for 11 hours and condemned with his fellow Africans to go and talk peace in Ukraine. That's the man who's leading this country. And we give due respect and space to him to lead us. Skokele Matame on this matter of Putin, which you are very much capable to deal with it, and your team. Torching of trucks, that matter, we have addressed it. We want trucks not to be torched. The state must intervene. All these crooks must be arrested. You know what pains us about this torching of trucks is when a black man appeared on TV and said, I don't employ foreign nationals, but my truck is being burned down. I employ South Africans. So my truck burned down in Mpumalanga, many people are without jobs. As a Minister of Transport, I dealt with this matter of truck and foreign nationals, and we signed an agreement. So none of these things that are happening right now come from those unions and organizations. It's a work of sabotage, economic sabotage. Clean. Somebody is sitting somewhere burning a truck. We have somebody who burned down Parliament, who was living in the streets, and woke up and burned down Parliament. What is his name? Mave. I politiki landlord. Ya politika pa. I banned parliament. He tells the judge every day. He woke up, banned parliament. But you know what is worrisome? What happened to the cops who were guarding parliament? When a person in the streets can get a gallon of petrol and burn down parliament, those people should have been suspended and face consequences. Because that place is guarded. It's guarded. Everybody just kept quiet. Cops were on duty when Mafe single-handedly burned down parliament. Cops were on duty there. National parliament burned down. Trucks on the streets burning down. These are the things that undermine the rule of law and the authority of the state. I'm not worried about Mafe because he will meet his match in terms of the law. Agudlalwa court. It's not a place to play that court. So, but the most worrisome part is what then happens. I don't know this thing about Mashatile to be ousted. We're still looking at it even ourselves. Because Mashatile, we elected him as our deputy president and we support him. He's a capable leader of the ANC. So if there is a campaign against the deputy president, we are looking at it. All what we see is stories, claims, and all of that about the deputy president, this and that. We're looking at all of those things. To an extent that it's a campaign politically aimed at annihilating an individual. We're observing that with keen interest. Because never again will we come to a stage where political leaders in the ANC are subjected to these shenanigans. Never. That does not mean that political leaders must not answer for what they are accused of. To an extent, it becomes a campaign. We will see. You know, when people say Mbalula owes somebody 3 million, I must answer. But I know the story where it comes from. I can tell you where it comes from. But I answer. Right? I must answer. The ANC can't answer for something that they don't know. The ANC doesn't know when I sit at night with crooks and ask for 3 million and so on. The ANC wouldn't know that. I must answer. Answer, Chief. Where did you get the 3 million? Why do you ask a 3 million from? 3 million gang or whatever that it is. Okay? So, anybody must answer. Mbalula must answer. And if there are integrity issues, Frank Chikani must come in. It doesn't matter. Even if you are Mbalula, if you are found to be on the wrong side of ANC integrity, you must answer. That's what society wants. And then on the basis of your answers, you must then be cleared. Ichigiland, we come from China. They taught us that they had to undergo a particular period in their life, politically, in which they had to deal with leaders who were on the wrong way. You cannot thrive as an organization on wrongness. You cannot. It doesn't matter who you are, what happens. If it is a political campaign, we'll see it for what it is, because it will not succeed. Even the plotters of it, even you journalists, we know all what you do is to write. Somebody gives you dossier. You write. And then you get dossiers and all of that. We can't blame journalists. We can't blame journalists for writing or asking questions about things. We can fight with journalists about distorting And journalists themselves independently must make up their mind that we are being used in a political campaign to destroy somebody. There's no basis for this. But others soldier on because we are told even journalists get paid to run some of the stories. But we can't prove that. So such things do erupt without bhadelwe. Mabone phala kangaka uhamba kakuhle unenkuntyula yemali. And then niphila kamnandi and subjectwa kwi lifestyle audit. Some of you drive interesting cars. Nibhala into ezinkulu ngabantu. And nobody's questioning you ukuthi yefo ukhola kangaka uyifumana phi mani imali. You drive Mercedes uyi-journalist. Masiye nathi fundi. Gawustuntsele man sitye nathi le nto uyityayo. So people are not subjected to that. But as politicians, we must account about what happens in our life and all of that. And if we want to sustain and defend the revolution we are about, we must be fair to ourselves and be fair to the ANC. You can't be this during the day, by night you are something else. Hoodwinking, lying to people that you are something that you are not. And then don't throw stones if you live in a glass house. Because all of us, like Batabile will say, we've got our smaller nyana skeletons. When you know that you are not clean, don't walk on the highway. Every day, see address about this and that. Don't walk on the highway. Stay on the path. Your politic, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't end up being personal, because we differ. Our democracy allows that. I don't have to drink alcohol with Steenhuisen or with Bantu Olomisa. That when we meet, because we meet like this afternoon, there is a party I might go to, Bantu Olomisa will be there. Bantu Olomisa must not challenge me as an ANC leader. No. Bantu Olomisa can challenge me and the party, the ANC. You are not doing this. That is their role. You don't have to be friends. It's political engagement. You are wrong there, we hit you there. I can't be personal, not general. Attacking personally and all of that. And that's gutter politics. We don't play that part. We play a proper role. So in short, I went to town about Mashatile, and I'm saying to you that should there be a political vendetta or agenda against our deputy president, we will see it. And we will not be party to that, and we will never allow the ANC to do that. Mashatile can't suffer for being deputy president of the ANC. He didn't. We went to conference, campaigned like all of us, he was elected. So those who don't want him, they must have peace with themselves. And maybe in future he will be president of this country. Because these things do happen. So people must hold peace. And ANC members must be matured to know when is the right time to do things and when is the right time. Now is not the time to be busy with pettiness. Now is the time to defend the revolution. The issue of who comes in after who will be addressed when that moment comes. ANC members must be online. They must understand the mode and the mood of the country and understand our role in society. Our role in society is to lead our people. If we don't provide leadership, this revolution will go. This struggle will depreciate and become something else. The same as when I conclude, I'm saying that today our people are being woodwinked to believe that the ANC did nothing for them. They are being woodwinked to believe that this ANC, all what they did is just to fatten themselves. They did nothing for you. I read a statement here from the Stats SA and about our interventions. Mid-August, we are going to Jabulani Amphitheatre. We will be all over the country to give a report back. And then we'll give you a report back on the manifesto, on the things we did. And then you will realize what this ANC did in this country to fight poverty. And to ensure that with all the difficulties we face in the economic front, we have never folded our arms. This 0.4% GDP growth is not happening on its own. It's happening because there is leadership here. And we will speak, not arrogantly, but politely. And you can engage us. Namdi Aifuna Mani frank dialogue. Please, I'm inviting myself to the frank dialogue of the ANC president. Frank dialogue. We had it the other day. Talk about the manifesto, not about attacking other leaders. Talk about what you did, ANC, for the people of this country. Frank dialogue. We want it with our people. And that's what we are going to launch in August. That frank dialogue. We will be talking about, look at our manifesto, word for word, paragraph by paragraph. 120 commitments. We are at 70% of those commitments. Word for word, what we did. Yes, we do have challenges, major challenges. Achilles' heel is this load shedding. We are now being judged about load shedding. Achilles' heel, COVID-19. 2 million jobs gone in the economy. And then it is incorrect for Duma Gubule, whom I recognize, I respect as an analyst. Let's debate that thing he wrote that we created 20,000 jobs. Let's debate that. Don't run away and insult people. Let's debate that. We will put our manifesto, we'll put the facts on the table. We will debate that. That's what the ANC is about, national debate. Not Twitter, 140 characters and increased more now, and all of that. Let's debate issues. These round tables, engagement, are healthy for our democracy. And I understand the journalists one time when they complain, hey, we can't get the president. We gave you the president for 2 hours. We gave you the president because we must account, we must engage. And then it's up to you what you want to engage about. We don't prescribe. We didn't say to you, don't ask him about Palapala. We gave you Ramaphosa. Ask him about Palapala, public protector, everything. We gave you. We didn't say don't ask him about Palapala. He's a president. He must account. So he must account. Everybody accounts. And that is what is important about our democracy and the beauty of our democracy. Accountability is central. Thank you.
Thank you, SG. I'm certain that whoever had any other follow-on questions has been sufficiently covered. Am I correct, colleagues? Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. Oh, well, the response is coming from one of the Luthuli House staffers. I'm just going to oblige my brother over there. You'll be the last person. Please go ahead.
I'd like to ask on the issue of NGOs. What are you going to do about it when you see them marching every day? Are you going to remove as the registration or what? And
Thank you very much, SG.
No, we can't muzzle NGOs. What we question, some of these NGOs are sponsored internationally. biggest beneficiaries of our NGOs from American funding, USAID. It funds a lot of NGOs here. Some NGOs are sponsored by our own government. Social development, support NGOs for different causes. Some NGOs, like OUTA, they are challenging government. You know OUTA, ne? They've got a lot of your money there, which you were paying because you did not want to pay e-tolls. So people didn't want to pay e-tolls, they paid OUTA, so that they are not prosecuted by the state. Should the issue of them being taken on by the state to enforce the e-tolls, OUTA was there going to pay them back. Now I want to ask OUTA, where is the money? Because me, I've dealt away with e-tolls. So these people who are paying you, where is their money? Pay them back, because there's no case to defend. And besides, in terms of law, we won anyway against them in terms of e-tolls. The ANC took a decision to scrap e-tolls as a moral obligation and to listen to our people, because when we introduced e-tolls, we did not prepare society. People just saw mushrooming of countries, right? Countries all over. 2010, they thought that is a new thing that came with Sepp Blatter. And they were told later by OUTA and others that, no, these are countries that are going, you are going to pay. It's e-tolls. But the reality of the matter is that what South Africans must know and don't know some is that these roads we're traveling on, and we complain that some of them are having a high turn of potholes. Somebody somewhere must pay for that. And we pay through levies, like e-tolls that we pay. Sanral doesn't have that money. So you pay also from your pocket. When you travel through the road, every day you pass there, you pay. Now, the Gauteng freeway improvement program has stopped. You know, you see most when you travel around Gauteng that we're developing the roads, because Gauteng is the economic hub of this country. So we're developing roads in what was called Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, which was the e-tolls. It has now since stalled. We must find money somewhere to improve the highways and to make Gauteng, the economic hub of this country, look like South Korea. Beautiful roads, or China, you know, beautiful roads there. Like what you see in Edgecombe, Mount Edgecombe in Durban. Beautiful road that Sanral built there. That's what we're doing here. So we must find money somewhere to continue with Gauteng improvement, freeway improvement project. Now, e-tolls are done away with, and that is the decision we've actually taken. So, OUTA and other NGOs, we can't regulate, unless we're not in a democracy, that NGOs are not allowed. We can't do that. ANC can't do that. Other countries can, not here. NGOs here are allowed to flourish, including those that are sponsored, by the way, internationally, who become voices to deal with this elephant called the ANC and all of that. They are allowed in the space of our democracy. We can't muzzle the NGOs. So I'm just giving an example about OUTA and their interventions and so on. They too can be taken on the commitments that they make. ANC can take OUTA on the commitments that they basically make. So there are NGOs that are supported for a specific agenda by AfriForum, things like AfriForum and all of that. for a specific Afrikanerdom agenda, preservation, culture and everything here in this country. They are now building a university between Midrand and Pretoria. They are building a university there. And then some of the meetings that they convene are very interesting meetings. How Afrikaner people are being mobilized against this country on the basis of danger and khafar that the ANC has become. So we need to converse through with South Africans so that they understand our intentions are noble. They don't have to join the ANC, but they are South Africans. They pay tax here, they do everything. We need to listen to them. They don't have to be members of the ANC. That's how we build a nation. And that is fundamental also to our program. So NGOs are important, and they play a very important role. So we can't muzzle NGOs. We want them to grow and to be supported. There are millions of NGOs who do good work. Planting of vegetable gardens in the backyard of our communities and all of that. Those NGOs are good. NGOs that are in the space of health, looking after people who are affected by HIV and AIDS and so on. Those NGOs are doing a critical job. NGOs looking after mental health, doing a brilliant job. Government must support those NGOs. But there are NGOs that are created for a political agenda, and we see them every day.
Thank you very much. With that, this now brings to an end this press briefing. Thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you, SG.
Asivulanga ngokuthandeleko le Sunday to. Kufuneka sithandaze. Thank you, comrades. Akhonto nifunayo kwisango.
Abaxelelile SG.
Yeah, okay. No thanks, comrades. Thank you.